It's the tag team duo of Michael Asiffo and Jeremy Asiffo. It's just the brothers here today. Our podcast is not polluted by outsiders. Um,
Technically speaking, you're an outsider because the podcast started with me and David.
that's true. That's
Yeah.
true. But right
So
now, right now it's the family podcast. Right now it's the family podcast. So
yeah, man. I was gonna say a reference that only 4 people are gonna get. You know how the game Marvel Ultimate Alliance? You know how like you'll get like points if you team up with somebody like you team people up who are actually like alliances in comic book life. I guess this is like that. We get like a +5 in strength or vitality or something.
exactly, is that the same video game? That's not because that video game was DC versus. That's a different, right? Right? DC versus Marvel or something like
DC,
that.
I think it was DC versus Marvel Combat and
Yeah,
Marvel versus
yeah,
Cap.
yeah.
Marvel versus
Marvel, Marvel versus who?
Capcom. So they
Oh,
made like two. So
no,
there's
I've never heard of the video game Marvel Alliance. Oh wait, no, yeah, I have. Isn't it a computer game?
it was the one where you'd play like as 4 heroes at a time, and you go like beat some guys. You'd button mash, and then you face a boss at the end. Then after you do another mission, you know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Well, this is not a video game podcast.
yeah.
Um, this is the preview show to UFC 261, and we're here, just the two of us, just the two of us, giving our predictions to the main card, the main event, stacked card. I'm particularly excited for this one, more excited than I've been for a UFC pay-per-view event in a long time. Uh, and Michael, should we just get into it?
We could. You let's get through some
Oh, we
MMA
got some
news.
announcements.
Yeah, some MMA announcements. Probably the big one that you're definitely gonna spend like 30 minutes on for the main show if we do talk about it is that there it looks like the UFC wants to set up Marvin Vettori versus Israel Adesanya
Hey,
around
yo.
sometime around June, which is interesting. Reportedly, it looks like Robert Whitaker can't make the June 12th, I believe, date that they want to do. So they've decided to move on from Robert Whitaker and go with Marvin Vettori, which I find questionable that they tried to get Robert Whitaker to fight in what his fight was last week. So let's say May, June, July. So May,
Yeah,
June. They tried to get him to fight in 2 months.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, you can't do that, right?
yeah.
You can't ask a fighter to fight 2 months after another fight where he took some damage. Like he was definitely outclassing Calvin Gastelum, but it wasn't like he came out of there fresh as a daisy. He needs some time to recuperate, so they're gonna go with Marvin Vettori.
Facts.
Yeah.
These are rumors, or these are like it's almost close. Well, UFC rumors are basically true. So, I mean, if it were to happen, would be good. I didn't. I personally, and this could just be a lack of not seeing too many Vittori fights except for Hermanson and Holland, and I think that's the only ones I've seen like fully. I've only seen his highlights in those two. So, but I just didn't. I just don't see him being tested, or it sounds bad, but I can't think of a better word, worthy for a title fight at this particular moment. I think Robert Whitaker is more deserving of it, and
I would agree.
yeah, and I just think you're right. I think 2 months is way too much of a turnaround. When I saw how Robert Whitaker's face looked in that post-fight press conference, yeah, he definitely came out of there scathed up. So, but
Yeah,
I,
like he was definitely outclassing Calvin Gastelum for sure. Like it was definitely a I wouldn't say Calvin Gastelum got mauled, but it was definitely Robert Whitaker was a cut above or several cuts above Calvin Gastelum in that fight. But it's not like Robert Whitaker can just get back in there next week, you know?
Facts,
Um,
facts.
so the rumor is that they
He's not
asked,
Figueroa. He's not Figueroa out here, dog.
yeah, right. So the rumor is that they asked him to fight June 12th or someday around there, and he said, "Uh, guys, you serious? Like at least give me till August, right?"
Right, right.
Um, that's less than that's not even 2 months exactly clean. That's less than a month and a half.
Isn't a UFC training camp 6 weeks? So it's like 2.
Typically you'd like 6 weeks. You'd like a 6 week camp.
Right.
Um, the more after that, the better, in my opinion, to a certain point. Like if you're going 3 months for a camp, there are some lulls in your camp that could happen. But in my experience, a 6 week camp is generally a good camp. And if you're getting you're getting like right it back in there, it would be around 6 weeks for Robert Whitaker. It's a tough turnaround. But it could just be that they asked Hermanson outright. Sorry, not Hermanson. They asked Vittori outright, and they didn't really call Robert Whitaker, which, in my opinion, would be worse.
Hmm.
Because one just sounds negligent, the other just sounds like you're outright passing a guy who deserves it over. Um,
Hmm.
but it looks like they're targeting that one. Anyway, let's go to the other piece of news. Apparently, Dana White um, said that Jones wanted $30 million for Francis Ngannou. He just outright put it out there. He put it out
Woo!
on Front Street. So,
Oh
what's your
man.
thoughts on that one?
Oh God, not gonna happen. 30 mil? Jeez. Would that be like the most the UFC fighter's ever been paid for a UFC event?
I think Connor has gotten 50 for the
Around
Habib fight.
50?
He got 50, but like it was 50 after like points and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel that he deserves it. I feel like, but I just feel like he should have stopped at 20. I think 20 was more realistic. I
See,
think
I'm
30,
with you.
yeah, I feel like 30, you're just not saying that you don't deserve it, because I'm sure you do. But just like you're outpricing yourself, I feel like at that point. So, but I mean, the thing is though, if the fans clamor for it, it could happen because Francis Ngannou versus Jones,
How many pay per
I
view
would
buys do you
argue
think it's
the
gonna do?
biggest what?
How many pay per view buys do you think it's gonna do?
Oh, sheesh. Maybe 2.
Okay, so if it does two, see, this is my thought process, and this is why people, when they say he's outpricing himself, I'm like, okay, you're right. On one hand, I'm inclined to agree with you, but on the other hand, it's this: if you think the pay per view is going to do 2 million or somewhere around that number, 30 million is
Yeah,
like reasonable. It's
yeah,
reasonable, right?
yeah. But
Um,
still, Dana don't roll like that. Dana
yeah.
don't roll like that, man. Like, so I just feel like, but like, no, again, though, I think I'm on counting on your side. I feel like that's probably the biggest fight the UFC could make right now.
Mhm.
So to ask for that kind of money, you're not unreasonable, but you just got to know the person that you're negotiating with. And
30's high. I'm not gonna lie. 30 is high.
I don't know what to say really. Like, I don't know what to say really. Because on one hand, I feel for Bones Jones, uh, but on the other hand, it's like,
30's high. 30
yeah,
is high.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know what to say to be honest. Yeah, I don't know what to say.
I feel like what this is though, if you allow me to go on a tangent, is that Jones all his career has been like not blackballed, but well, obviously blackballed, but lowballed his entire career, right? If you look at some of the pay-per-view buys he's gotten and the money he's taken, or the disclosed fight purse, at least, not even including pay-per-view points or whatever, but just the disclosed fight purse, it's been pretty he's been underpaid, ridiculously underpaid. So, and,
You know
Dana.
what? I might. You can continue your tangent, but I might be secretly, or maybe not secretly, but just inherently pushing back, you could say, in a way. I don't really see it as pushing back, but like I could be inherently discouraging John Jones to outprice himself secretly because I kind of want to see the fight. And
Mm-hmm.
I know that Dana White isn't going to give up without a fight. So
On that
because of
first
my
fight,
desire as a fan to see that fight, I'm
you
like,
just want him
bro,
to get in
can't you
there.
just take
Yeah.
the 20 mil? Like, I'm
Do you
with
think
you.
Dana? But hold on. Do you think Dana would actually go to 20 mil? Because I think 20
That's the
mil
thing.
is very reasonable. I think 20 mil is
Me
very
too.
reasonable,
Me too.
and
And
I
I'm
think 20
behind him
mil is where
100%.
I would put him at.
Right,
Right?
exactly. I'm behind him 100% for the 20 mil. I'll wait and I'll stick with you to the end. But 30, I know is not gonna happen. So it's
Yeah.
like that. So maybe it's because I know that 20 mil might happen and 30 mil might not happen. So
But
that's my.
even 20 is a big ask.
It
You
is.
know,
It is. Yeah. I mean,
like
I don't know. That's why I feel. So I just have to put that caveat out there for why I feel like I just want him to take the 20 mil, but I mean, if you're saying he's been lowballed his whole career, I mean, hey,
I look. That's why I think it is. It's just a case of a guy who's been lowballed his entire career who wants that big payday finally. And this is the problem when you lowball. Like, look, I think every business should take a page out of the UFC and not necessarily lowballing their employees, but saying to your employees, look, in order for us to grow, we have to rapidly reinvest into our brand. And in order for us to reinvest into our brand, you're just not going to get paid as much, but the pain will
John
come now.
Jones.
You
Well,
know?
I guess not.
Yeah. No, I'm here with you though.
Yeah, man. I think he's overpricing himself.
Yeah. Like, there is that negotiating tactic of a window, what's it called again? Window dressing or something. I can't remember what it's called, but you basically go high so that the person goes low, but kind of where you want them to go, and then you just kind of settle at that number.
I've heard of
Uh,
it. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But I don't think that's what's happening. I think Jones is just really adamant about 30 million. Okay, on to our last piece of news before we go on to the preview. And that is, I'm trying to look for what's it what is it? Well, there's a lot of things I could say, but um one headliner, Jake Paul's not going to do a wrestling match versus Ben Askren, but the main thing was Usman in a tell-all interview revealed that he had a severe bout of COVID-19 to a point where he was hospitalized. Given the fact that this event is going to be a full capacity stadium,
Hmm.
right? Not saying Kamaru Usman typically, if you do have COVID-19 and you get diagnosed, you are your second bout with it is not as, what's the word I'm looking for, as severe, right? Because your body knows how to fight it off typically. With that being said, if Kamaru Usman's getting hospitalized and he's a top level elite athlete, you know this event that's going on, is it are we jumping the gun a little bit? I know the Americans and the way they're handling the vaccine is almost night and day compared to the way the Canadian government's handling the vaccine. But sorry, the COVID crisis as of this moment. Um, but do you think this might be jumping the gun to have a full capacity crowd for Usman Masvidal?
Uh, I think it is. Um, I think you're putting your fighters at risk. You're putting the people at risk having full capacity. But you're right, though. You're right. I think they said not they. I was talking to my boy who lives in New York, and he was saying that 70% of people are set to take the vaccine. So we got to keep that in mind that they are handling it fairly adequately.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it's too risky. I think they're also having the Navarrete Diaz card also in Florida with a crowd there as well.
Yeah.
I think that many people in one particular place, you're bound to get COVID cases, and yeah, I think you're putting the fighters at risk. I
Yeah.
just think you need to wait until you're out of the woods with this thing before you just start acting like everything's back to normal.
See, this is the thing, because I do want to also present the full scope. I'm not 100% sure on the facts, right? So before anyone blasts me on either
Right,
side,
you have to get vaccines before they buy tickets or something like that. They have
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
to,
See, that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure what things are going to be in place. Um, it's just when you hear Kamaru Usman say that, and you're like, okay, this is a top level athlete being hospitalized, right? If
yeah,
let's say 1% of that crowd gets COVID, that is a very, very, very big stress, right, on the ICU and the hospitals there. So it's it doesn't take the whole point I'm trying to make is it doesn't take much. It
yeah,
doesn't take much, right? And so and again, either side, don't blast me. I'm not aware of the facts. I don't know what they're doing to take precautions. I don't know what Florida's vaccination numbers are like. I don't know what you have to do. And to play devil's advocate, Texas looks like they're handling it fairly well. I know their numbers did rise a little bit in the last couple of days or something like that. Like, again, don't know all the facts, but I've been hearing and reading that they've kind of gone on a little bit, like a little bit of an increase, but they've handled it fairly well. And they've been having crowds. So, to play both sides, they are handling it better than Canada. So keep that in mind when you are kind of judging this. With that
yeah.
being said, would you not want them to wait till like July, August,
For
you
more
know,
people vaccinated, yeah,
when more people are vaccinated, right? Because it is a toughie there. But alas, that is you know it's a tough subject to talk about, right? Because it's such a hot button topic. It's been something that's taken out, like, 2 years of our lives, to be honest, and or a year and a
yeah,
half of our lives. But
yeah. It is hard actually. You know what? I mean, personally, I agree. I think you should just wait a little bit longer, but I can't lambast anybody for putting on this event strictly because of the fact that people want things to get back to normal and they're willing to do anything to do so. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, basically we'll definitely fact check at the end of the show for some of those things. And please feel free to comment below on some of the facts that you guys have. Keep it civil in the comment section when it comes to this whole thing. Um, I just want to stress that please keep it civil when talking about this thing, because I know it can definitely not get civil. But yeah. Okay, on to the fights. Because we definitely it's a very good card we have here. I think it's, to this point, probably the best built card the UFC has had to offer this year, if you would agree.
Yeah, no, no, no. What was the one before this? That was pay per view 260. There were who it was Adesanya, and then who else was on it?
Oh yeah, it was Asanya Yan, and then there was, if my
Oh,
memory's
Peter Yan and
Petr Yan. Yeah, so it was Asanya Blachowicz, and then Jan
yeah, yeah,
Nunes Anderson.
yeah. This one's better than that. This one's better than that. I would say this one's better than that, and yeah, this one
On paper, at least.
on paper, yeah, on paper it's better. So
Like,
yeah, it's probably the best card of the year so far.
yeah, no, I would agree. But excuse you, I'm messing around. But yeah, no, I think it's the best built card. I wouldn't say maybe top to bottom it's the best built, but it's definitely one of the best built cards. And you know what? Everyone's made weight. No one has had
COVID,
the illness,
the
right?
illness.
The illness. To yet, no tests have come out positive, so
Knock
thank the
on wood.
Lord. Yeah, knock on wood. But yeah, they're going at it, and I guess let's start top to bottom. Main event: Usman versus Masvidal. What do you think about this? What's your initial thoughts on this, brother?
I think it's gonna be fireworks. I think Usman, or I'm sorry, Masvidal is looking for blood, and he has such a laid back attitude, but you could tell that it eats away at him inside that he, uh, you know, like when I say dominated, but was controlled for most of the fight. I
Mm-hmm.
don't think he wants that to happen, and I think Usman it also eats at him that the fact that he didn't, as he would say, make it flawless. So I think this should be a good one. Two guys who don't like each other already going into it, going in there with bad intentions. So my initial thoughts on it, I think this is going to be this is shaping up to be a great main event.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree too as
Oh,
well.
and you know what? We just talked about um, the fans and everything, but I'm interested to see how the fans play a role in it because we've gotten so used to DC and John
Hmm.
Anik and Joe Rogan. I don't know if he's going to be there, but if all three are there, we've gotten so used to them talking in hushed tones.
Yeah,
Be
yeah.
gonna be it's gonna be something it's gonna feel kind of weird, but it's also gonna be like, okay, this is kind of what we were waiting to get back to. So I mean, even though I felt that they should wait a little longer, I mean, I'm interested to see how the crowd plays a role in
Hmm.
everything.
Yeah, no, and you know what? Like, look, as much as I'd like to say, that they should have waited, just because my initial thoughts are, just kick the cat down the road for a little bit.
Yeah,
I have to say that there is, as sometimes the crowd can be a detriment, i.e., booing a fighter. Like I always hate that. Like, oh, you're booing a guy who might die in that cage, but
white ass knuckles.
but I think what's the word I'm looking for? But I think there's something to when there's a good fight, a crowd just going wild. It's some fun, right? It's really really
Yeah.
fun. Um, my only thing though is that when it comes to Masvidal versus Usman, this fight has happened before, right?
Okay.
Um, technically, now Masvidal was on a short notice fight. He took the short notice fight, and came in there, and I would say that while he had the knowledge and was in camp, he definitely was not in shape.
Yeah.
Um, you could tell, definitely not in the right kind of shape to fight Usman. The hope now, obviously, that could happen again. He could probably not come in shape, but
Yo,
the
he
hope
looks kind of good. He looks pretty good in all the interviews, and I didn't get a look at how he looked at the weigh-in, but
Way in he looked good.
he
Way in he
looked
looked
good. Okay.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I
But
mean, with clothes on, he looked good. I didn't really see what his physique was looking like at the weigh-in.
yeah, like look, the hope is he comes in shape. So we're gonna get an in shape Masvidal who's getting a second crack at it versus Usman, who definitely has made some improvements himself. Against Gilbert Burns, that jab was singing that
Mhm.
night. So yeah, I think this is gonna be an interesting fight. That dynamic of the crowd is definitely gonna play a role because you don't know. It is Masvidal's backyard of Florida, so he's definitely gonna get an ovation.
Right.
But you don't know how people are gonna receive Usman, and
Yeah.
and if that's gonna really affect things much. I've always said I don't think the home court advantage in sports really is that big of a deal, per se, in normal sports context
Except in
because of the
Toronto, unless
because of the fans. But see, that's the thing. It's not because of the fans, but because of your habits, right? You go to that place you like before the game. You ride the subway you like. You go to that hot dog vendor you like. You know the spots of the city. Whereas when you go on the road, it's not the same, right? But when you're a
I don't
fighter,
know. When Jurassic Park gets going, you can definitely feel the energy of the Toronto Raptors. But
no, that's kind of the exception, right? So it's like in this COVID environment where people are desperate to cheer,
yeah,
right? And they're probably the thought process is they're probably gonna cheer their second son, Jorge Masvidal,
yeah, it's a
isn't it?
different. Yeah,
Do, does that push Masvidal over the edge, right? I know that sounds kind of stupid. Maybe to the hardcores they're gonna be like that has nothing to do with it, but in a normal context, I'd agree. But in this hyper environment where there's going to be 25,000 strong, probably a pro Masvidal crowd. Probably, you never know unless you get there. Until you get there, does that help? Does that make it worse?
I think it helps Masvidal, but not to the point where it can seriously play a detriment to Usman. Usman's so even Q. Can I make my prediction now, or is it too late? Should I?
No, no. Make your prediction.
I don't think.
Technical. I want to go into technical analysis, but make that prediction. Let's get
Yeah,
it.
I mean, I don't think. I think it does push Masvidal over the edge, but not to the point where it helps him beat Usman. I think Usman walks away with the victory in this one. I think he gets 3 or 4 takedowns. He controls him on the ground. And I think he stands up with him too pretty well. I think it's going to be a repeat of the last one, except not so much of a tentative game plan where he's just kind of like holding him up against the cage. I think he's gonna try and keep him in the middle of the cage, and then when they stand up, I think he'll be more prepared for it. I think Trevor Whitman is a fantastic striking MMA striking coach, so I think he stands up with him, and I don't think that the crowd is going to push Masvidal over Mount Kamaru. So
I'm inclined to agree. I'm inclined to
yeah,
agree.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was basically my technical analysis. I think he controls him for on the ground and everything, and I think he it's like he's gonna be Khabib out there. Yeah, I also have some questions for you as to I heard some questions floating around there that I want to ask you after you go through your technical breakdown and prediction.
I'm inclined to agree with the Masvidal with the Usman prediction. I would think Usman would win, and I would think largely the same as you. I think he controls the pace, he controls the ground. I think the one thing, so two notes I would say is that Masvidal is sneaky good off his back, sneaky good. Damian Maia said the toughest guy he's ever had to grapple with in the UFC was Jorge Masvidal, which I think speaks volumes
How
for
long ago
Jorge
was that?
Masvidal's jiu-jitsu. Huh?
How long ago was that though?
I want to say 3 years ago, 4 years ago to this point.
Oh,
So
okay.
they had a toughie. They had
I
a
was
tough
gonna
match.
say maybe it was due to his energy or his excitement. Maybe it wasn't so much due to actual. Because if you're energetic and you're moving around and you refuse to stay on your back, you don't. That can make up for a lack of uh jujitsu defense on your back. No.
Well, yeah, no, definitely if you have athletic advantages, right? If you're like stronger, if you're faster, if you're probably more flexible, right? You definitely will make up for there's a margin of error that you can have. You have a great margin of error for sure. But I think it does at the end of the day, it is your game, right? So if
Right.
your game is again, David Maya is one of, if not the best jujitsu players of all time. And if he's saying it was tough, I think there is something to be said for Kamaru
Yeah, but
Usman for
Damian
now.
Maya though. Okay, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right. Damian Maya is a good jujitsu player, but whenever I've seen his finishes, they usually come from like what I would call the jujitsu version of a flurry, so it starts standing up and then it kind of ends up on the ground. Like I've seen multiple times where
Scrambles. He's scrambling.
yeah, where he takes or where he just finds a way to jump on somebody's back. I think one
He's
of the
so
best,
lethal off the back. He's
yeah,
so
I
lethal.
think one of the best jujitsu players who start from the top guard. I don't know what it's called, but start from when it's on the ground and then they're trying to control from the top. I think that's more so. I don't really, well, I don't know who it would be, but I don't see Damian Maya. Not saying that he's not good at it, but just not like.
But I think the idea is Damian Maya is a master of getting there, right? You know what I'm saying? He's a master of getting there, and if Masvidal is stopping him from getting there,
Right.
Masvidal knows what he's doing, right? But I've seen him at Masvidal and Colby Covington, for example, grapple, and Masvidal tends to get, you know, controlled by wrestlers. That does tend to happen,
Right.
and I do think that Kamaru Usman is going to come in better shape. His nose was broken in the last fight, which is something no one really brings up. Um, so yeah, I would say that that I keep saying Masvidal. I would say that Usman's going to come away with the victory. Yeah, that's I don't want to go on too long. Sorry. What's your questions?
Yo, is Usman, just a question. You can tell me if I'm out of pocket for this. Is Usman a better wrestler than Habib Nurmagomedov? Is it even a question? Is
It's a
it even
question.
a
No, it's a
question?
question. It's a
Okay,
question.
so it
It's
is
a
a
debate.
question. All right.
Yeah, it's a debate.
I really
I
don't
would
know. I mean,
say
I've see them as having the only thing that I see. You know what though? I will say Khabib's strength advantage over his weight class counterparts, I feel is more noticeable than Kamaru Usman's strength advantage. However, in terms of skill and like technical ability as a wrestler, who would you say is better? Who would you say is better?
I would. You know what? I would say Habib introduced so many interesting grappling concepts.
Uh,
Um, because Kamaru Usman does the American style really well, but
uh,
Habib has introduced so many aspects that are so useful for mixed martial arts. So if I said to them, both of you guys, hey, get on the mat, bring the wrestling singlet, and you're gonna have a wrestling match, no strikes. First one to pin, somebody wins. I think it's a question. I really do think it's a question. Um, I it would be interesting who wins, but if I were to say who's the better wrestler for mixed martial arts, I think it's Habib.
uh,
And because the Dagestani handcuff, for example, right? No one was doing that till Habib came in. Um, the leg control thing where Habib would squeeze his knees together to keep your legs from getting out of that pocket to get back up using the cage. Really great. Habib is really good off the cage, which a lot of guys. We just had Sam Alvey. Sam Alvey is a master at kind of keeping his back to the fence and using it as a way to stay up from going to the ground. Right? These are right, but Habib, that would be his game, right? He knows how to get you to the ground using the cage. Habib's really good off that single leg. He'll go low single and break you down using MMA techniques. He trips really well. He gets the back really well. And I think he's better jiu-jitsu wise too, but that's not the question. So I would say Habib is probably the better wrestler for MMA.
is Habib the better jiu-jitsu?
Habib's got the better jiu-jitsu out of Kamaru.
Okay.
I think so. I think so, in my opinion. Um, but yeah, I would say their styles are different. Like their objective is similar. They want to control the positioning. They want to control the pace, and by doing so, they use grappling to do so. But how they approach it, the skills they use, they differ. They differ. There are differences. Yeah.
All right, second question. Is Kamaru Usman a better welterweight than George St. Pierre? Why or why not? And if not, what does he need to do to become the better welterweight?
Okay, so I've always said that relative to their peers, Khabib might have fought in the best division of all time. But George St. Pierre's strength of schedule is undoubtedly the best strength of schedule I have ever seen in mixed martial arts.
Okay.
If you were to pull up his record, right, and pull up who he had to face, and I'm just going to do it now just for reference because it was, especially the second title reign. So right after he got the title back, the second from Matt Serra, the second run was Murderer's Row after Murderer's Row. So okay, so I'll even go back to when he lost to Matt Serra. He faced Josh Koscheck, then he beat Matt Hughes for the interim title, then he beat Matt Serra, then he beat John Fitch, who was at the time undefeated. Then he beat BJ Penn in a rematch. Then he beat Thiago Alves, who was at this point juiced to the gills. Then he beat, allegedly juiced to the gills. Then he beat Dan Hardy, Josh Koscheck again, Jake Shields, who was the Strikeforce champion at the time, Carlos Condit, Nick Diaz, who was the Strikeforce champion before it got absorbed, Johnny Hendricks, and he beat Michael Bisping again for the title, for the middleweight title. That is an impressive schedule. Like Hall of Famers up and down that list, with the exception of maybe, and I mean it's only because I think, his later career fell off a cliff. Thiago Alves, right? So, when you look at Kamaru Usman's record, though, it's not that far off. It's not, right? And I'm going to pull it up just to show you, right? Kamaru Usman's record is pretty stacked. So I'm going to go from the time he started in the UFC. So the first fight in the UFC, okay? So his first fight in the UFC, excluding the Ultimate Fighter finale, is Leon Edwards. That's his first fight. Leon Edwards. Now, granted, they were both younger in their careers at the time, but Leon Edwards.
But based on where they are now, it's a good fight, right?
Yeah, it's a good fight. Then he faces Alexander Yakovlev. Okay, throwaway there. Warley Alves, who at the time was a killer. Sean Strickland, which was a throw-up. Sergio Moraes, BJJ champion, really highly regarded. Emil Meek, whatever you'd like to say, Mac. Then this is where it gets really crazy, right? He beats Damian Maia, RDA, Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, Jorge Masvidal, and Gilbert Burns. Tough names, right? Tough names. Now, I think we can both agree that George St. Pierre's was probably better on paper.
Right.
But I would say that George St. Pierre's, and because George St. Pierre was the champion for longer, more guys are gunning and planning for George St. Pierre, even when they're not. You know what I'm saying? Like guys are adding to the games. Sorry?
Hold on. How many title defenses does Kamaru have?
So far, Kamaru Usman has 3. Colby, Jorge, Gilbert. George had, I believe, including the first title reign, 12. Oh, wait, he didn't even defend the title in the first time because he lost to Chris Weidman in his first title defense, right? So
who has the record for most title defenses? Isn't that Kamaru?
No. In the welterweight division, it's George St. Pierre walking away. George St. Pierre has, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. He has 11 title wins, 10 title defenses.
I thought I heard something about Kamaru having the most title defenses or something. I don't know.
No, he has the most active win streak in the UFC, in the UFC welterweight division at I think 14 or something, some insane number like that. But no, it's active. But the point is that while I think we can agree that Kamaru, like George St. Pierre's, relative to his competition, was probably better, Kamaru Usman's been facing crazy competition too. And I just think that what it is that I wouldn't necessarily say that he has to get to 10 title defenses. I wouldn't say that, right? But what I would say though is he would have to probably beat some sort of combination of 3 of the 4.
But what about the fashion in
Let
which?
me let me finish. Let me finish because I need to explain this. He needs to beat some combination of three of the four. Leon Edwards, Wonderboy Thompson. So Leon Edwards again, Wonderboy Thompson, right? Colby Covington again, and I guess for Shiggles, let's say that it would have to be somebody who will reach the top five at some point in 2021 or 2022.
All right.
So I think he would have to beat some sort of combination of three of the four, and I think it's a conversation.
Yeah, I think we should also analyze the fashion in which he's winning these title defenses and stuff. But I would agree. I think based on the information you just gave me, I would say GSP has that title or that has that debate. But we spent a lot of time on the main event, so we should probably move on to the next fight.
Yeah, yeah. So I believe on this card it would be Whaley versus Rose.
Yep. This is
Um,
my fight. This is the one I've been waiting for.
Before we get into anything, let me just say I was very disappointed in Rose's communism comments.
Oh
Right?
shit.
I was
What?
I was very disappointed. Because I
What she
thought
say?
we
What
as a
she say?
society. Sorry.
What she say? What she say?
Let me pull it up because I think
Or just give me like, oh, well, just paraphrase. I know like we that's not journalistically right, but
yeah.
if you can't find
Okay.
it,
The
paraphrase.
par the parallel she was making is she wants to come in there like it's USA versus China, right?
Uh-huh.
Um, and that it's capitalism. It's not capitalism, but she's facing communism. And I thought, first of all, I think it's very like, look, a lot of people get mad at me when I bring up when I draw parallels that people think are stretches when it comes to sociodynamics and socioeconomics of race relations. But I think it's very dangerous in this point of time, especially given the fact that there's escalating tensions between the Western world and China, to draw those parallels, right? I think they're very dangerous. But
Yeah.
the other thing, and the one that kind of disappoints me, is I thought we were past this. Like, look, if you don't agree with the economic system of communism, fine. I'm inclined actually to agree. Like, I'm not necessarily, for communism in its purest form or socialism in its purest form. Fine. But I think to equate communism to every kind of evil in your life is also kind of stupid. And I thought we were past this as a society. It was cool in 1985. It's not cool in 2021.
Hmm.
Stop. Stop. Because you just look like an idiot who doesn't know what it is, right?
Yeah, I
But
thought Rose was above that.
yeah, and I was very disappointed. So, she's still one of my favorite fighters to watch. I love the way she fights, and I think I love the way she approaches MMA from a mentality standpoint. I was just very disappointed. Um, but take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Hey. All right.
Yeah. But yeah, anyway, back on the fight because that's what really matters. But what do you like about this fight, brother?
I'm excited to see Whaley back in action. She grew on me uh, in the last fight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like her aggression. Um I like everything about her really. I just like the way she fights, and I'm excited to see her back in action. I'm also excited to see Rose. I think this is probably her her stiffest test to date. And I'm excited to see how she handles it. I too like how she approaches the mental aspect of fighting in the cage. And it's just two warriors that I can't wait to see go at it. So, not too many technical uh, thoughts I have on this. Even though I like how creative Rose fights, I don't think this is going to be like one where she can be ultra creative. I think she's gonna have to think while she's in there. She's gonna have to keep moving around, keep trying to pop Whaley, and then find her opening that way. But I think it's gonna be a dogfight for her. I don't think she's gonna have the liberty to pick her opponent apart like she does usually, and then going for the kill. I think it's going to start off as a dogfight. She's going to have to think her way through it in order to execute her game plan.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I think I think the thing about this fight is this. Rose is, I think you're gonna get a very good indication of combination punch power, or combination punching, combination fighting versus, going not necessarily for one shot kills, but trying to hit the power punch, right? Trying to hit the power shot. Rose is going to use her movement. She's going to try to be in and out. She's going to be slick. She's going to try to pop 3, 4, 5 strikes and then get out on Wei Li. And Wei Li, on the other hand, is going to try to hit her with, I wouldn't necessarily say ones and twos, and that's it, but she's going to try to hit good, hard shots on Rose to try to crack her. And you're going to see an interesting dichotomy of, basically, I think you're going to get another version of Wei Li versus Joanna stylistically. It may not be the same kind of fire fight that was, because holy crap, but you're going to get that kind of interesting stylistic matchup where you're going to get one person who not necessarily is going to throw pitter patter, but is going to sacrifice power for more so combination striking, volume, and movement, where you're going to get another person who's going to sacrifice defense in the attempt to crack somebody and land hard, significant shots. And so I think you're gonna get, like you said, fireworks. You're gonna get two girls go to war. And that's why I'm kind of very excited for this fight. I think this is the people's fight here. I guess if I had to say the technical analysis, one of the things I like about Rose really well is that Trevor Whitman has gotten Rose to make these really incredible defensively responsible decisions when she does do that style. One of the things I say about TJ Dillashaw, for example, is that while TJ Dillashaw's movement is really excellent, when he was going before the whole USADA stuff, while it's excellent, if somebody can do it, there are some defensive irresponsibilities that he had that you could catch him with. With Rose, they're there. They are definitely there, but they're not as fluent. And one of the reasons why is because Trevor Whitman has really instilled in her to, for example, go to the blind side or go to the close side on your opponent. So if they're standing orthodox, you walk to the left. You circle to the left, right? You don't spend too much time up against the cage.
You circle to the right.
Sorry?
If they were orthodox, wouldn't you circle to the right?
Sorry, you circle to your right, but to their left. You circle to their left, right? Which Rose does, right? You don't, and she did it against Joanna. She kept circling to the left. Rose is really good at 2 steps back, making a decision, as is Joanna, by the way, as is Wei Li, by the way, actually. If someone's pressing you forward, intercepting their stuff and then moving out in side to side with lateral movement rather than just going backwards the entire time. Rose has made these really incredible defensive kind of improvements over her career that, while her record may not be the most flattering, I think you really see a tale of two different Roses. Yeah, that's I don't want to ramble too long.
Is that what she needs to do? Is that what she needs to do to beat Wei Li? Circle to the left, things of that nature?
Yeah, Wei Li, I think, has probably the best 1-2 in the women's division. And while the jab is a powerful jab, it is a power jab, it's serving the purpose of chaining together that cross, right? So if that jab isn't landing, my theory is the cross will not land either, right?
All right.
Because she needs kind of like almost, and this is a way less, more technical, savvy version of it, but Deontay Wilder needs his jab landing so that he can measure for his cross and the follow up hook, right? Um, I think that's kind of the same thing you're going to get with Wei Li. And when that tends not to land, like let's say the early rounds versus Joanna, she tends to now start to be a little more. She's more willing to take risks at that point, right? So you gotta get Wei Li to take risks, and I think what you'll see is some like as much as Joanna lost that fight, Joanna had a lot of success because she got Wei Li to take risks.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Rose needs to do here. I think Rose can actually do it better than what Joanna did.
Right.
But I think, and I still stand by this, I do think Rose has the weaker chin out of the three queens of that division: Joanna, Whaley, and Whaley, Joanna, and Rose. I think she does have the weakest chin, and I do think it doesn't take as many as it would for, let's say, Joanna, or even an Angela Hill, who's like way down in the rankings. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I got Wei Lee. I got Wei Lee coming out with the win. I think the strength, the aggression. She's been working on her ground. I mean, we won't know it until we see it, but I think the combination of all those things. I'm gonna give it to Wei Lee. I think this is gonna become a fight, and I think if it turn, even if Roses gets her to take those risks, I think Wei Lee is gonna turn it into a fight, and she retains her belt.
yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I keep flip flopping on this fight because at first I was Rose, then I kind of looked at kind of the things that Whaley could do. I think Whaley has a strength advantage. I think an interesting dichotomy of this fight too is, will Whaley try to take it to the ground?
Yeah.
Uh, you know, and it's not also not necessarily will Whaley try to take it around, but will Whaley mix it up, right? Will Whaley, because everyone can throw like kind of a token takedown, but will you do the Robert Whitaker and flow into the takedown? Um, I can see a world where she can. I really can. I don't think she will, but I can see a world where she does. Uh, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Now I'm gonna take Wei Li on this one. But don't put any money down for this one. I'll tell you. Don't
Yeah,
put any money down.
50-50 as it gets.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Uh, Man, on to the other fight, and it's very rare that you see two women. You see women main events in the UFC more so than you would see in other sports, or like women getting the top billing. But very rarely are you going to see kind of a two of the three of like top events in any other sport be women dominated. And as much as we kind of give the UFC flack for their marketing of women at times, they make them feel important. They put them on there, right? And they gotta at least get some credit for that when other sports don't. And so this next fight is another female fight, female championship fight. This time in the flyweight division, Valentina Shevchenko versus Jessica Andrade. And Jeremy, I know you're a big fan of Valentina, so take it away.
Yo, I don't even really have to say much on this except my girl Valentina walks away with the victory. Um, Rose is creative, but Valentina does art. She does art. Uh, in the words of Serge Ibaka, she does art. So
Yeah.
um, she Valentina puts on a master class. She keeps what's her name, Andrade, at bay with the leg kicks. Um, and I think she has great potential to end this one in a knockout.
Yeah. The one thing about Andrade is that wild card. She has so much power. She hits so hard.
Fair enough.
And while her tools on the feet are limited, for sure, she hits so hard that it's such a great equalizer. And she is so strong that if she can get a hold of Valentina, you don't know what could happen, right? She could take her down, she could slam her. Um,
Yeah.
you never know with Jessica Andrade, but assuming the skills are what they are, and maybe one or two explosions from Andrade happen, I'm inclined to agree. I think Valentina is
No, but
gonna
even sorry, go ahead, finish.
no, I think Valentina is gonna really put a number on her. I think it's gonna be one of those signature performances, just given the fact that Jessica doesn't have
Valentina
many
also
scars.
circles to the close side too.
Yeah,
She
yeah, and
circles. She pivots more. She'll throw a combination on you, and then she'll pivot to your close side. But it's, as good as anybody in the game does it.
yeah, no, for sure. I really liked against Jennifer Maya. She throw that overhand and then like kind of circle to the blind side. She would like kind of like walk to the blind side and then pivot, and turn Jennifer Maya around from rounds 3, 4, and 5. Um, I think you're gonna get another kind of cautious performance for sure because you have to against Andrade. But I really could see a world where Valentina is throwing that front kick. She's throwing that rear check, that rear low kick into the inside thigh, throwing maybe a check left hook every once in a while, catching Jessica Andrade upstairs every once in a while as well. Like I really think it's gonna be a signature good performance. Maybe not a fan friendly performance for sure. But it's gonna be a signature performance, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't curse it, knock on wood. And Jessica Andrade pops her with something, but yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Uh sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, other fights going on. Uriah Hall versus Chris Weidman. Now the interesting thing about this fight, for people who are in the know, is these two actually fought each other before. Chris Weidman was a rookie in the game when he faced Uriah Hall. He was, I believe, 3-0 at the time. Um, when he faced Uriah Hall and came away with the W. Um, if you watch the fight, it was mainly kind of a signature Chris Weidman performance. Took him down, controlled him, you know, en route to the victory. So this fight, I don't think it will be. I think it's going to be much of the same. Uriah Hall is notoriously a gun shy fighter. He doesn't throw many strikes. Um, Chris Weidman, while his chin has deteriorated from the days of his undefeated run into being the great Anderson Silva, I think he's still every bit of a wrestler he was, and he's a slicker striker now that he's working with Wonder Boy and the crew out in South Carolina. So, yeah, I think that's going to be an interesting fight. Do you have any comments on that, or you want to talk about?
Yeah, I got Chris Weidman in this one. I just think he's a cut above. Simple and plain. I think he's going to utilize the wrestling and control Uriah Hall. And also, I think he I think Uriah Hall is yeah, I think gun shy is the right word. I think he's just gun shy. Like he probably has the tools, but he just probably doesn't know when to throw punches.
Yeah, it
And he
does
doesn't
seem
have
like
he doesn't have that many punches too. Because, a lot of people think in UFC you can just throw punches out there. No, you have to have certain punches. You have to know when to throw them. So
yeah, you have to develop a feel for your game, right? If you're gonna like, for example, that he threw a right hook, a rear hook against Anderson Silva. Never saw him throw that in my life until that fight.
mm,
Um, in my life, his punching game is usually straight line attacks, which can work for you, right? Wei Lee is a master of that one too, so we've seen it work in some capacity, but I think that's the whole thing, right? Like Uriah Hall's gonna have to not just he's got a great jab. I think that's the thing. He will keep Chris Weidman at bay with the jab for times, but you gotta pair that jab with good footwork. And Uriah Hall's footwork, not the best in my opinion. I think he backs himself up against the cage a little too much. Um, I think it would behoove him to use some lateral movement every once in a while. Uh, make that decision of 2 steps back and make a decision. I hate to put myself into this, but I always teach it 2 steps back and make a decision, right? So I think Uriah Hall for him, if he does display those technical improvements, I think he can really win on jab and footwork alone against Chris Weidman because he's got a lightning fast jab. Um, and um, he's got very impressive wide array of kicks and knees that can catch Chris Weidman or at least give Chris Weidman pause on coming in on him for sure. And Uriah Hall does like to operate out of southpaw sometimes. So all those to say that Uriah Hall has the skills, and has developed the skills to make this a different fight than when they first fought. I just don't think he will for some flaws that he does have.
Right.
Gun
Same.
shy, yeah, gun shy, backs himself up a little too much. Yeah. Um, the last fight on the main card, Anthony Smith coming off a bounce back win against Devin Clark last year, after having a couple tough losses, mainly to Glover Teixeira and Alexander Rakic. Um, is going to face a tough test in the 12-and-run Jimmy Crute. This one is interesting to me because I think for me, this is a good indication of where both fighters stand because Jimmy Crute has gotten a lot, and I mean a lot of hype. Um, the kid looked really good against Bukakis in his last fight. He also looked pretty solid against Michael Polish unpronounceable last name Olekasic. There's gonna be some
Unpronounceable to
Polish.
you.
Sorry,
Unpronounceable to you.
unpronounceable to me, of course, right? Let it be known that people can't even pronounce Asiffo, right? So I get it. I completely get it. Um, what I will say though is this is the first ranked guy, or at the very least, guy who's been a high pedigree fighter that Jimmy Crute has faced in the UFC. Um, this is kind of the first tough test, and to me, this is the I wouldn't say first tough test because he did face Misha Shirkinov, but he lost that one, and he lost that one by Peruvian necktie, and so that's a style on move. But this is kind of you know another chance back at that. What do you call it? The upper echelon. Can you be a high? Sorry,
Oh no, I always said hype train, but I was wrong.
it's not necessarily hype train, but it's just another chance at that. It's a walk before you can run
Yeah.
match. Can
Yeah.
you get in there? Against Anthony Smith, who, by the way, Anthony Smith has a sneaky good jiu-jitsu game. So, not necessarily saying he's going to face another Misha Serkinov, because Misha Serkinov, and I think me and Stefano attested to this, is one of the best jiu-jitsu players Canada has to offer, at least in the MMA sphere. He's one of the best grapplers Canada has to offer. But you're getting a guy who is going to present some of those same issues that
Right.
that Misha Serkinov presented. A guy who isn't afraid to go for a takedown, a guy who actually can strike better than Misha Serkinov and is tougher. So yeah, I would say interesting fight. But on the other hand, for Anthony Smith, and if you'd like to chime in, please do. But on the other hand, for Anthony Smith, you're getting a guy who, the bounce back win against Devin Clark is nice, but it's, and not to be disrespectful to Devin Clark here, but it's Devin Clark, right? A guy who isn't necessarily ranked, a guy who isn't necessarily a big name in the division. You know, you've gotten dominated by big names in the division, and if you want to get back in there, you're going to have to play the role of gatekeeper a couple times, right? And for this matchup, I think it's gatekeeper into contendership right here. This is the gatekeeper matchup into contendership um, for Jimmy Crute. If Jimmy Crute wants to get into that top 7 to top 5 range, he needs to beat an Anthony Smith. But on the other hand, if Anthony Smith wants to shut the door and let people know he's for real, kind of like how Derek Brunson has been doing it right now, he's got to shut the door on Jimmy Crute here, who is only 12-1, by the way. So, yeah, interesting fight.
I think the door stays wide open. I think Jimmy Crute wins. I'm on the hype train. I'm on the
Yep.
hype train. He's got that look in his eyes. And I know you can't make an analysis based off of a look at someone's eyes, but I
He's a fun fight, man. He's a
I
fun
think,
fight.
I just think he's I think it's very, yeah, it's a fun fight, and I think it's evenly matched. But I don't know. I just something's telling me Jimmy Crute.
I think my thing with Jimmy Crute, is that, like, again, Jimmy Crute. Look, the thing about Jimmy Crute is that he's a well-rounded fighter. You're not gonna get like, you're not gonna again. Misha Serkinov is one of the best grapplers that Canada has to offer for the last time. Actually, you know what? Not for the last time. But so you're not gonna get like a scenario where he's gonna get styled on like that every time. Um, but but there is having the skills and then having the tactical, you know, fighting like a general, having the tactical awareness of what you're putting yourself into, right? Um, and knowing where you're good at. And I think with Jimmy Crute, and you're seeing it a lot, is that he's a fun fight. He likes to push. He likes to get after guys. He likes to, make it a fight, whether it's on the feet or on the ground, right? Whether it's submitting guys like Paul Craig or TKOing guys. He really loves that Kimura, by the way. Or TKOing guys, um, cold, right? He likes to fight. I think when you do that, you do open yourself up and you do kind of make yourself available for being, for risks. And so what I want to see from Jimmy Crute, and this must be to the eye roll of fans, what I would like to see from Jimmy Crute is patience or a methodical game plan that you can break down. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right? If I don't see that, that's when you start to kind of say, okay, even if he were to win, you kind of start to say, okay, but what's this guy's shelf life really? Right?
Right.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that's pretty much all I want to say on that. I am inclined to agree, though. I think Anthony Smith does get a little outclassed here. Not too much, but a little outclassed.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that was all I had to say on those the main card. Let's see here. Any kind of boxing news that you want to say heading into the weekend before we call it a night here?
Sure. I mean, if you have time uh, during the uh, MMA card, uh, check out the Emmanuel Navarrete versus Christopher Diaz main event. It's gonna be a great fight. You also got that Puerto Rican Mexico rivalry in boxing. It's similar to Yankees, Red Sox, or Alabama Auburn. So it's like a really big rivalry. It should be a good fight. And then, of course, before those two guys square off, you got Edgar Berlanga, who's going to try to continue his streak of 16 straight first round knockout wins. Under He's done them all in under 2 minutes. So the kid's a beast. Also of Puerto Rican descent, but from Brooklyn, New York, and he'll be fighting Damon Nicholson, who has sworn to make it out of the first round. I don't know me. I got I don't know. This is like something that would be interesting to bet
Could,
on. I'm
but
not
could you imagine, like, your trash talk promotion is not to win, but
Yeah,
to make it out of the first round?
yeah, the first round. I know it's terrible, so terrible. But that would be interesting to bet on. I'm not a gambling man, but I think he actually does make it out of the first round. Damon Nicholson is actually he's a fighter. He's a tough test. I think he does make it out of the first round. And just the fact that Berlanga has finally gotten some recognition, I feel like he's got too much pressure to like end it in the first round. So because you have that pressure, I feel like it doesn't happen. When you don't have that pressure, you could just go in like a wild dog. So I think Damon Nicholson does make it out of the first round. But yeah, it would
But
be.
like, do you think he wins though?
Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But yeah. So that's gonna be a fun card. That's gonna be a fun card. I think there's other cards too. There's a card in Japan. Um,
You know, I love those Asian fighters, man. They get
yeah,
after.
yeah. Next week is Andy Ruiz, Chris Arreola. I'll preview that on the podcast show. So, but yeah, if you have time during the UFC card, check that out. It's on ESPN Plus. Uh,
Picture in picture, everybody. Picture in picture.
what?
Oh, I was just telling people, picture in picture. You know, two
What's that?
screens.
Oh yeah,
Two
yeah, yeah.
screens.
Two
Yeah.
screens. Yeah. But you know, if you don't got the funds, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. So uh enjoy a great weekend of fights, guys. Really, really, really. It's gonna be a great weekend in boxing. It's gonna be a great weekend in MMA for sure. I'm gonna be glued to the TV Saturday night.
Yeah. The Light Kick does not advocate for illegal streaming here.
No,
Just want to make sure that we are very clear on that.
I didn't
And
say illegal. I said you gotta do what you gotta do. I didn't say about illegal streaming.
no, I just want to make that very explicitly clear.
If you live in the States, go to a bar or whatever.
Yeah, but I just want to make it explicitly clear.
All right.
Explicitly clear, please.
All
No illegal streaming. You
right.
know.
All right.
Um, threaten the children and let's get out of here, brother.
Oh, jeez, I don't got no threats, man. I don't got no
Say
threats.
something how you'll grind their bones into dust and make their jam, like, or something, like, I don't know.
Oh, isn't that from Shrek?
Yeah, like, what was it? Grind their bones to make his bread or something.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I'll suplex you off the Eiffel Tower if you don't subscribe or something like that.
Is it German? A
My
dragon?
go-to threat is to suplex somebody. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like my go-to threat is to suplex people through a table. I'm going to punch your heart through the back of your body. If you don't.
All right. Okay, so in this crazy mixed up world where tomorrow is going to be a live crowd, a full capacity crowd, I pray to God that Dana White is right.
Oh, you know what's crazy? We didn't even talk about Jake Paul and Floyd fighting on May 6th or June
Oh,
6th.
is it Jake or Logan? I heard it was Logan, no? Oh, hold on, you're on mute. It's
Yeah,
Logan or it's Logan, right?
yes.
Um, hey man, look,
We'll talk about it on the
yeah,
if we
yeah,
have time.
we have time. We have time. You know, I've said my piece on why I think this is bad for boxing as opposed to like Ben Askren versus Jake Paul being, you know, not
What?
so
Instagram?
much worse for
You
MMA.
Instagram?
I no, I made my piece on a video. I made my piece on a prior video. And
Yeah.
it's more so to do with the economics and financials of boxing and MMA more so than it has to do with the more so than it has to do with like the prestige of the sport. But yeah, anyway, in this crazy mixed up world where I hope to goodness Dana White is right, about crowds, and I want to see live crowds, but I'm scared. Remember, you have three things. You have life, you have family, and you have this podcast. Stay safe, everybody.